win slide night. I'll play it up on the here. Can everyone still hear me on the call? Alan?
Yes.
Clear?
I can see it.
Yep.
Oh, right. Now, the idea here is that not all of our programs need to necessarily just be a speaker, right? We can have some fun. We can bring ideas. Gosh, how often do we come in the room and it sort of becomes a form of what's happening outside? Hey, see this? How about this? What price this thing? I think that this could be something that we do annually. Maybe it's annually this month. But we know that the summertime tends to be a little busier for folks, so we probably won't ever have the big numbers to our meetings in the summer months. So this will be sort of a little more informal times. But we're doing our banquet, we're doing our picnic, and open side. So let's treat this as a forum. I am your master of ceremonies this evening, the president. And look at this wonderful slide. I love this. And I know Mr. Stevens put this together. And it's beautiful. I love the whole thing. What's the drawing that's out of focus?
That's actually a drawing in this book.
Fantastic. So when the slide comes up, let's have fun with this.
The photograph, I have no idea what that is. This looks really cool. But it was a slide that I had in my office that I could fix up, but I don't actually know what it's going.
Look how tall the TV antenna is.
Right. And I inherited a whole bunch of slides from my grandpa. It's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. That's on a big slide. I get to scan this one. So this one is probably in Illinois, would be my guess. That's where my grandpa lived. I think once I scan it, I might be able to get a better idea of what it is. This one, it does look really cool.
Or truck. Our first guy. Oh my gosh, Tom, the floor is yours. Look at that picture. Isn't that nice?
Okay, so take it. Pre-COVID, family gathered in Florida. Me and grandma person took the opportunity to go do some tourism in Sarasota. There, it's on the west coast there, and it's a real hotbed of architecture, and came to be known as the Sarasota School of Architecture. Now, don't think of this as a physical school, think of this like Chicago school. It's a look, it's a style, it's approach to design. So this was in the 40s, through the 60s. Architects started doing this stuff, and some of them went on to do bigger things. You recognize names like Paul Rudolph. You might recognize Ralph Twitchell, Tim Siebert, William Rupp, and Jack West. So there's you can't talk about this without talking about this particular neighborhood that we walked around in. It's called Lido Shores, Lido Shores. It was developed by a man by the name of Philip Pitts, ISS. And he come from the Northeast. He had a family history of government wealth, and by his mid to late 30s, he married and divorced twice, the same woman, and then had a big custom yacht built and went down to Florida. And he decided to become a developer. You might recognize the name. Cousin was Albert Elder, yes. Now, was trying to respond after the war. So he decided he was introduced to this group of young architects, post-war guys who were doing some exciting things. And so he bought this basically an island, was like a sandbar, and developed their and one of the early buildings is here on the left. This is, it's called the His Studio. And this was built in 1953. Jim Siebert was the architect. That was the studio, he was the developer. And then, so the Sarasota school, well, the way that, yeah, obviously big panes of glass, usually broad overhangs, picking up cross ventilation was part of it. A lot of inside-outside kind of relationships that, well, Paul Rudolph said something, paraphrasing here, to the effect that the kind of architecture he wanted to do, he thought that a warmer climate like Florida would be better than a cooler climate like in the Northeast. He went down there, he graduated, partnered with Ralph Twitchell. Okay. A lot of these are raised up like this. I'm trying to get limited access off the ground. See? Cheese.
So you don't get alligators.
Well, and, you know, just getting floods perhaps.
I think it's what's out there.
What kind of trees are those?
You know, honestly, I don't know. You know, although,
The one has a gigantic trunk.
no, yeah, that's not live oak. I don't think. But live oak is that.
And it's dropping the roots.
It's not a mangrove. I don't think. Honestly, I don't know. It's fantastic.
You see over 6 feet to it.
Looks like something dinosaur.
That is the thing I guess within these my earth orbit plugins.
So, so you have this studio built, Tim Siebert, 53. And then to the right, and you can go to the next slide, is his house. This is known as the umbrella house. It's basically a cube, and then it's got this floating roof up here in the back, and the roof covers more than twice the size of a house. Actually, at one point it got blown off in the 60s, I think, in a hurricane, and then relatively recently restored. So this was then designed by Paul Rudolph.
Yep.
On to later things for his career. It was built in 1953, designed it in 52, built it in 52, built in 20. This is for his, this was Philip's house. One of his wives. So you know, you can see it's somewhat formal, sexual, large areas of glass. The rear area covers the backyard. There's a pool up there, being a kind of indoor, outdoor kind of thing. And wanted the roof up there to provide shade, yet ventilation. That's the case. So here's the kind of opposite corner. You
Yep.
can see there's a roof up there. This is kind of this building is defines the whole Sarasota school approach to things.
Paul Rudolph was our design critic in 1954.
So, Paul Rudolph did this house in 1957. It's the Harkavy Harkavy house, the greenhouse. Again, you can see, I thought it was really fantastic. These origins and these raptors, the play of light and shadow, really kind of well articulated. There's the street side, see my director, the back side, somewhat L-shaped. Here right back there, about openness right there. The next one here is the Kirsch House, 1957, by William Rupp. Yep. There. This is a concrete construction. A lot of these, a lot of homes in Florida, in general, they're all going to be concrete block or block concrete homes. This then is the end by William Rupp, built in 64, 65 kind of time frame. The Markowitz house. I look at this, honestly, oh my gosh, this is what people are building in Denver all the time right now.
Better thought out.
Just, and not made of, this one's probably made of block, and I guarantee no one will know.
Right. Well, after Islam is down there, so is that a warehouse? Is that?
The ones in Denver don't have overhang. True.
But yeah, you can see the whole lines, a lot of light. One thing that we were struck down there is right around the island and so on, it is absolutely flat. There's no topography at all. And so, it's for all lines. That's kind of huge. This is known as the Zigzag House. 1959, Ralph Twitchell and his son Colin was in Twitchell. And I think that's who Rudolph worked with when he initially started working on it. It reminds me of some of the elements that you see.
I wonder if that's concrete or if that's stress skin plywood.
I guarantee it's not keeping this cool. Like almost 1,000%. I would imagine. I bet it's a thin shop.
I think it's 210. I'll have to check and see if I have that shit.
I mean, that would be my guess, because I know for us to get insurance down there is a lot of ones to get roof lines that are different and insured in Florida. Like they have to meet all sorts of crazy criteria. So I would almost imagine set up some sort of initial concrete or different construction, plus turbines.
It's sort of the first four walls, block those. The next one then is 11, I can find the name of it, 1177 Central Place. Designed by Tim Seabridge, built in 1964. So, walking around Rio Shores was interesting, is that these really cool mid-century modern landmarks, and then there would be some regular ranches shown in there, and then along the waterfront property, up and turn down, you see these big Mediterranean mansions too.
Yeah,
I think initially it was supposed to be all these mountains. So they were doing more than just homes that we walk through. This is the Sarasota City Hall, 1966, Jack West. So commercial buildings, but Paul Rudolph did quite a bit of school architecture down there. And we went out to visit the Sarasota Senior High School. So you look at this plaque, very cool. Over on the left, see that Philip Hiss, the chairman. He came down there, got very involved in the community. He was a Republican in a very Southern Democrat kind of neighborhood, but he got really involved in things. Became the chairman of the school board. He built a lot of schools and Rudolph, Paul Rudolph, a number of them. Actually, some ran around as well. This is done in 1960. So that's the general view as the approach. It has been fairly recently restored, or what? I don't.
One of the best pictures I've seen of it.
Yeah.
That nice size.
Yeah. It's kind of these signature, these elements in that. It's no pictures of that. Canopy coming down stairs there. It's cast concrete, and then the Rissolet from the classroom. It's really stunning. You go into the center courtyard area and you use back there, of course, it had a fence off. So then the next slide, the little there, 27 grand, so this cascading form here is just it's wild. It's wild. Then you've got the whole plate concrete from the roof, and then these Rissolet here, almost like it's kind of like a colonnade in the classroom. Even the detail of how that's in there, it's like up.
And look how well the Rissolet is. Look at the glass, right? It's brand new. It does.
Another view of that. Well, it's a nice, clear blue sky day, and so blue and the white. And so we had running around. So the levels, somewhat L-shaped, and then every other one has pier. And you can see the areas just stiffness, environment. But one of the
That does remind me of what I was showing you on that pedestrian wall there in Miami. I was just looking up to see who did it, but it's not that person. I could have shared some of those photos. I was in heaven. You said this was Rudolph that did this one?
Rudolph. So, sure, this was done in 1960, and Alan, you might know, when did he start at Yale as dean? Shortly after that, wasn't it? Or mid-60s? Can't hear him. You're muted.
Alan, you're still muted.
Can't hear you.
Sorry. He was in Cambridge from about 53 until about 58 or 9. So I think Yale was done probably around 1960. He designed the Wellesley College Science Building in our drafting room at Harvard. He didn't have an office in Cambridge.
So this Rissolet, and the glasses, it's 2 stories, and so there's a floor in there, but it's on glass. So very effective. Chapel there.
I'm glad they saved it. They're trying to destroy too much of his work already.
Yeah. But as I mentioned, I guess there was another place torn down, rebuilt by somebody else. There was enough of an uproar that they decided to keep this and restore it. These concrete buildings are up to work with, going new systems around them. So this is from the inside of the PCA, and it doesn't come all the way down to the ground. It kind of creates a colonnade for these classrooms. Like the back, yeah. Sure. Don't know what it's. And we have the junction of these different elements. And like, you know, so these are that
Center, other side.
so this, you see that it's small, it's gonna connect with some rebars.
With this.
But isn't that nice how it's here?
Yeah, it looks like it all should just kind of start to kind of maybe move by itself. It's all floating, you know? That's beautiful. And actually, it's using planes as part of its ornament.
Right. And that's it. Now it's 17 spots.
Beautiful. Well,
Lovely.
that's Scott out there in the desert finding us some concrete buildings.
He's scrounging up the stand for the concrete.
Literally as stone.
Well, I want to start with just some random in-shell buildings I either photographed since I gave my presentation last year or ones I didn't have.
Here, I'll let you. Okay, you can draw it. Right will be click forward, yeah, and then center is place.
This is up at Adams County Fairgrounds. Now it's called the Waymeyer Dome. And I had kind of assumed this was a more recent dome. Probably done by the monolithic dome people that licensed their techniques to builders around the country. But I discovered it was built back in 1968. So it is more of a traditional thin shell concrete dome. It started out with a kind of an ugly wraparound building section, and then other appurtenances have been added onto it since. But at the heart, it's thin shell concrete dome. And I found that Richard Weingart was the structural engineer for this. And this is the only thin shell concrete I found definitely contributing to. But I've read several articles by him. He was a pretty prolific writer. So I was happy to learn that about this one.
You don't need that pop-up, you know, the food stores, the ventilation.
I believe it's first order. The maintenance guys were working there with me inside. Pretty much the next
How much you send in?
Yeah.
Sweater.
Now, that decrepit looking little shell is thin shell concrete, barrel walls, built in 1960. It's up in the JBS meat processing plant in Greeley. And you can barely get a glimpse of it as you travel by on 34 there. So I was barely able to get a shot.
It's like you were driving.
Yes, I was. Yes, I was.
But it's pretty, look how snaggy it looks. Very,
It does. Yeah.
Word John out, right?
Everything.
That is a fragile face, right?
And the architect for this was Nat Sacker. And but given the various legal difficulties JBS has been having, I didn't even bother knocking on the door asking to take pictures. So I just shot in the road and moved on.
That sector had Colorado license X1. It was the first one to sue for a license.
Wow.
Should jot that down there.
And this little gem of barrel walls is part of CSU, the Water Research Center. It's up northwest of Fort Collins, kind of off the beaten path. But it's got two sections of a very large building that have the barrel wall thin shell concrete. James Hunter. Yeah. James Hunter, Boulder, was the architect. And the engineer was Ib Falk Jorgensen, whose work we're going to see at St. Philip's. St. Stephen's. I'm sorry. So I was happy to drive out of my way to find this one. Also on that trip, I went to Fort Morgan to photograph their senior high school, which has a nice, large, full plate concrete. Wheeler and Lewis were the architects for this. And the engineer, structural engineer, was Russ Kostreski. And this is the only mention I found of him involved in this.
I actually know Lewis's grandson.
Really? How cool.
Yeah, I've tried to convince him, he just doesn't want to talk. I don't know.
This one dates to 1965. You know, I really enjoyed seeing it because of this open bay. You just really see exactly what the structure of that building looks like. That's include that nice ivy going across it. Catch that lateral force. The upturned folds, keeping the stiffness along that edge. So I walked around this floor. It's like a picture for about 30 minutes. The local cop eyeing me from the distance, making sure I was not something bad. That was a fun one to see. It does. The building actually the plan kind of cuts it. Wow.
You know,
And the
did
folds
some
fall
incredible
out.
buildings. They did over like 200 schools. But I have a whole list. Except the entire, it's an entire list.
That's neat that it's one day. Now,
Yeah,
that's really
Yeah.
neat that, you know, made the scene.
like a cutaway. Here's our,
Exactly. What's the one?
you buy this product, here's what you're getting.
You know, it almost looks like the backside of the Michelle Praying Hands Church, the building that's right next to it. It has a similar feel to that one.
And then this, it's currently the Rupe Jesuit High School, over in very west Denver. Originally built as Holy Family High School. And I have not yet found architect or engineer information on this. I show this picture just because I was so tickled to get this shot. Get there bright and early and caught the sunrise just before it even hit level, hit horizontal. And when you spend as much time as I do staring up at the eaves of buildings, this is a rare treat. So it's happy to do that.
Nice.
So we see plywood forms.
Seeing the imprints from Fargo.
Yeah.
It's cool. So this is when I'm still trying to track down more information. You can revisit newspapers.com. That would know the name, original name.
You can see it could be, we're gonna do the, I have that list.
I'd like to see that, yeah. And again, I was lucky to have a nice blue sack.
Let me know,
And this one, and hard to read the name there, this is Color Strand Elementary School over in Wheat Ridge, built in 1961. And you can see it's got a cap on it, likely with a couple inches of insulation, with decorate on top, but that is not. That sounds familiar.
I remember, I think the one with this, but and also the one in Cloverdale. That's
Cloverdale. That's along Florida,
Cloverdale. Yep. And then
Florida, east of Sheridan.
then there's the one that's in 80123 off of Wycliffe. Also the time for that.
Right. Start seeing, they just jump out.
Now residential homes are very big.
You know, I can visualize them building the forms. So the forms are for the concrete. You can't do all that.
Or,
You know, or
they always did.
really?
Yeah. At least one section, one B or one W, whatever,
Oh, really?
And there's always concern about if you have cold joints.
Yeah.
You know, multiple floors.
Yeah.
So even giant structures like a couple of aircraft hangars with a 340-foot span. It's like all hands on deck. Works like that. They started on each side and worked their way.
And it's
So-
efficient to get a time between these jobs.
Right. And it's quite possible that they did that here. Set up the forms in that first bay,
The whole length.
the whole length,
Yeah.
poured it. And then a week or so later, ordered the form, shifted them over. That was real common. That was one of the economies is that we used the form.
Yeah.
So it's always the vowing that is the joint.
I would say at least almost always. Every time I say always, I find a contradictory finding the next day. But everyone I've seen, it's been the vowels that have the columns. So that's the normal stuff you see from me. In the next few slides, I'm going to kind of tease the presentation I mentioned about looking at Colorado's Cold War missile sites.
Oh, yeah.
And thing is, if you like brutalism, you probably have fun looking at missile sites because there's a lot of concrete. Now, this is not in Colorado, but it is typical of a Minuteman missile silo. There are 49 of those in Colorado, but they're all still in active use by the Air Force. So I don't recommend stopping.
Not easy to approach.
Yeah, but there are enough that are open to the public or sitting abandoned in other states that we've looked at.
There's one for sale in Nebraska right
It's there.
now.
Minute or
A missile silo, yeah, there's
Yeah.
some. I think I'll pull it up while you're doing
Okay.
things.
probably an Atlas.
There's a silo outside of Aurora that somebody turned into a house.
But
It's gonna have living quarters.
I
and
haven't seen one turn into a house. Pretty sure.
Let's see if I can find it.
Yeah. Anything new to me?
Where's the front door?
Right?
Okay, what we're looking at here, this is an actual Minuteman silo, what they call a launch facility. This one's up in North Dakota, and it's part of a state historic site up there. And what we see there is that huge, massive door that would be propelled open on those tracks to allow the top of the silo to have access to the missile launch. And when you're looking at a launch facility, you see it from the road, that's about all you notice. You notice a fence, you notice between right poles, you notice that one white pole that has a little radar security unit on it, and you see this big concrete door, and not much else. But if you can get inside, there's actually a silo that goes down about 60 or so feet. There's 2 levels of round rooms, equipment rooms, around the top of that silo. So it's a whole complex building underneath that massive concrete door. In the presentation, I'll show some inside photos, but I visited a handful of these sites around the country and kind of show you the architectural features, if you will, of the missile silos. And this one, this is a launch control facility for the Minuteman. The Minuteman missiles were in remote silos several miles from a control center. This is just the innocuous looking outside part. The building on the left is just a garage for the vehicles. The building on the right has dorm rooms for folks that had to stay out there overnight, kitchen, dining room. The room on the front left of that right building is the security control office. But then underneath that building, buried about 60 to 80 feet, depending on the ground conditions, there is an underground control center. And so, like I said, this is just a tease. In the presentation, I'll show you a bunch of photos of what's down there.
I really dig that game.
That's a nice security gate there.
That's serious.
Serious business. So that's the Minuteman system, a separate launch control center that control 10 different silos scattered around the countryside, different concepts.
Are these powered by overhead loops?
Typically, they had commercial power, but extensive backup generator systems. So they could,
What about that line that's hanging up above? Is that part of their power?
that's part of the commercial power, yes.
So somebody could cut that line and put them out of business.
Well, the generators would kick in within a second or two.
You would have to.
Yeah. So that's the Minuteman system.
Yep.
There was three main families of missiles in the US: Atlas, Titan, and Minuteman. There were a couple of sub-variations in there. But Colorado was home to Atlas, Titan, and Minuteman. What we're looking at here is one of the Titan I missile sites out east of Denver. There were 6 of these scattered around. And what we're seeing here are 2 silo doors. But these aren't even for the missiles. These are for 2 communications towers, tracking towers, radar.
Yeah.
These doors would open, the tower would raise up with the radar to actually track the missiles as they would launch. So a lot of people get to the site and they get this far and see these and just assume those are the missile silos. Huh? But this silo itself, for that communication, that tracking antenna rather, is about as big as that Minuteman missile silo itself. And there's, like I said, there's 6 of these complexes in Colorado. None of them have been open for tours. I did tour one in Washington State that's built to the same plans, so I'll be able to show you some of those inner features, what it looks like on the inside.
It says this one isn't backwards.
So,
It says, well, it says this one's backwards.
oh, the one for sale. Oh yeah.
So is this active?
No, the Minuteman system was solid fuel, and it is still in use today with various upgrades along the way. The Atlas and Titan were liquid fuel. They were build them fast, get them in the ground, and get themselves against the Russians. But they only lasted a few years, like literally 1961 and 1965. Atlas, Titan 1 came next. And then about 66, these first generation missile sites were being given to school districts, local governments, or just if nobody official wanted them, they were just auctioned on after being heavily scrapped, unfortunately.
I don't know if they test the doors. But engineering, they do that, but they pop up and on, so it looks like a big crack. The closest door.
There it is. Yeah. I suspect the door was probably some of the hardware was stripped and then it was just knocked shut.
Yeah.
Just a guess.
Well,
And then this, that same site, east of Denver, this is actual half of the missile silos. There were 3 silos at this complex. And the Titan I sites are sometimes referred to as an underground city because they're so massive with a huge control center over here, a huge powerhouse underground with 3 silos, those tracking silos, and just hundreds of feet of tunnels going back and forth.
They're all connected to each other?
Yes. And so this type of door, they would open, you can see the kind of the joint in the center, and then each half of that would open out toward these larger supporting buttresses or whatever in my colors. You can see one of the other silos off to the left behind. And they were all laid out exactly the same in terms of the positions of the components. So once you see one of these in an aerial photo, if you know the general vicinity of others, it's real easy to pick them out.
Now, if you're curious, what one was that being said, let this stay.
And there has been a business in marketing missile silos and control centers, survivalists,
Oh, that. Oh, yeah.
This one has a whole living quarters in the bottom.
Yeah, I've been able to visit a few that people live in.
John Griffin and Pencil.
Amazing stuff.
Anybody seen that movie?
Yeah.
There are a couple movies. Premise starts with.
Yeah,
Watch Single Villains.
so that's Titan 1. Now this is a shot inside an Atlas E missile site. And this is one in Greeley. Actually, there were, let's see, check my notes. There were 5 Atlas E complexes in Colorado. And they were controlled out of Francis C. Warren Air Force Base up in Cheyenne. Yeah. They just kind of arranged them in a big circle. So some of their sites from Cheyenne, up from Colorado, even Nebraska, as well as Wyoming. And this photo is in the missile bay, where the missile would sit waiting for its call to launch. That door in the background slides open, it weighs many tons. That's how they would get the missile in the site. This was a horizontal coffin launcher, they called it.
Yeah.
As opposed to a vertical.
Yeah.
And something interesting they did here is you can see up top, there's that large form. It's hard to see in this portable photo. I had a bad camera back then. But they used plywood to create a rough shape of the Atlas missile and hung it up there just as a display. The city, I'm not sure it's the city or the county, owns this site, uses it for storage. And if you call and happen to get the caretaker, let you walk in, they'll let you look around. And it's of the Atlas E sites. My friends that have seen more of them than I have say this is the best preserved one. Because so many of them were heavily stripped salvagers. This one, it went directly into that local government control and it's never left. So it hasn't had that opportunity for the vandalism, well, sometimes legal salvage that's taken place. But if you like lots of raw concrete, I mean, this is the place to be. And with Atlas and Titan, the same piece of property held this missile, and the crew was also on this property, fairly close by in their control center. Unlike Minuteman, which would have that scattered, dispersed, much more efficient. Your crew had 10 missiles under their control, where here you had a crew with 8 missiles. And this is also that same site, looking from the outside at that large door.
Launched horizontally.
What they would do to launch, and what we really can't see in this picture is above that fake missile profile, a gigantic concrete door will slide off to the side. Then you can see those yellow arms sticking out there. The mechanism would then lift that missile straight up for launch.
The NBA that you left so to the ground.
Yeah.
That might have been the reasoning. That's one of those things. It's hard to find the whys for some of those decisions, but that's likely it. So if you go to any of the Atlas E sites around the country, and there were 27 total, each one of them, you're going to have this view with slight differences in those sidewalls just based on body quality. Not much difference. And you'll see that very unique ventilation cap up there. Yeah. And then the smaller door here is the personnel access door. So you could go in there and you can make an immediate left. You could see the missile itself. Or you would make a right and go through a tunnel to actually get into the control center, where the guys would sit there for your console and wait for the launch. So that's just a tease. So if you guys are still interested in seeing some cool work concrete, I'll get their whole presentation. That's it.
Beautiful.
Look at that guy. Oh my God, that's the best picture ever. Adam took this. I didn't know that picture was happening.
It's not a missile silo.
So I didn't. So-
It's a hell of a segue.
Go West, young man. Enjoy happier, more modern living. In these beautiful 3-bedroom homes at Sunset Lakes, Denver area's most ultra-modern community. 2 basement homes left, GIA, HA turns, drive north on Federal, turn west to Sunset Lake. The date. Oh boy.
And there was nothing there to begin with.
What, Alan?
There was nothing there to begin with.
Not at all. This is it. Sunset Lanes.
11,750.
Yeah. Family living in mind. 11,750.
So that's what you paid for it, huh?
Oh, hey, right on the ball.
It was a ranch on that site, right? It was more like the Sunset Ranch or something.
Sunset Corral.
Sunset Corral.
It was a rodeo. It's on the site. Get it from the name, rodeo. This is it again. Look, look how happy he is. Look, he's showing the kids in the white. This is it. Look, I bought
This is
this.
it, honey.
Look how great this is.
Who's that parking our car for?
Yeah. Why is there already a car in our carport? Rooms for all of us. Look at all the room. Look, and now the kids are in the glass. But notice the glass got a little bit shorter between this and that.
Wow.
It's still thoughtfully constructed. Yes, Mr. and Mrs. Sunny. 3 bedrooms, tile bath, 1,050 feet. Hot water baseboard and the finest construction you can find anywhere. Well, Mom, it is what I've always dreamed of. Yeah, and so close to school, we can walk.
Was there a school out there at the time?
Yeah, the Westminster High School would have been there.
And I believe that school right now, like it's like now in Houston, I think that was.
Maybe it would have been right at that same time. I don't know if it was going first or
Yeah.
it would have been.
I mean, that's really deep.
So here we go. We see the little name here next to the rendering Bauman Politnik. Sunset subdivision. Ultra modern for modern women in today's streamlined living. Dream homes. Look at these 3-bedroom masterpieces, tops in quality, tops in location. And then we've got the little cutaway perspective or isometric of the interior of these things. And look, you even got a free Westinghouse refrigerator you can register to win. Isn't that incredible? Yeah, my grandpa did Westinghouse was one of their friends. So that came out of it.
It's just that simple. You'll find romantic living in Sunset Lake.
Romantic living, yes. Your coziest home this winter, a paradise of summer indoor outdoor living. Automatic gas heat water system, modern baseboard art radiators. They're art. Fully insulated, fiberglass and rock wool. Blacktop streets, my Carta top for kitchen unit, so that's Westinghouse's. I like that. Storage room and utility cabinets,
Would be ceiling.
complete ceiling, all copper plumbing. What else? The futuristic, streamlined, low sweeping design. Gosh, it sounds like a Christ. And here it is. There she blows. That's the house as it stands on the left. This is a really terrible little sketch I made of what it'll look like on the right. So I thought I'd show a couple slides of what fills legitimately all of my mornings and my evenings. So rather than eating breakfast and eating dinner, I work on this thing. So suddenly it's 1955. Let's walk up to the front here.
See my atrium, there's my front door, there's the car. There's a large addition off the back of the carport that'll go away, and obviously, the full exterior will be revised with this. But let's walk inside, through the front door. Oh gosh, here we go. Now at a price you can afford. It's contemporary, smart, spacious homes with 3 bedrooms, hot water perimeter heat, ceramic tile bathrooms, and mean ceilings in the living room, kitchen, dining room areas. Magnificent mountain views show also the kids. 6 p.m. Change their hours. Now, I've got a couple little props here, and I wish for guys that are remote, I think maybe you might be able to see these. These are 3 models. All the same house. All the houses are exactly the same. This is the non-carport house. And if you look here, this is actually the floor plan building. Very, very basic. But that mountain view thing and that rendering there that shows the mountains in the background is actually not that far-fetched at all, actually. It's exactly the same house. It's spun and twisted. All 4 different sides that face the street, different times. There are 2 carport configurations. One that's to the side, which is my building. Again, this faces all configurator that's out to the street. And then again, there's one that's the end carport. It's one of the major features of the houses with these atriums.
Everybody has closed up.
Mine is now the only one with the atrium back open again. Of course, it was closed up. This is what the gut of the house looked like. There's 3 window packages, and based on the orientation of the house, the window package goes towards the mountain views. And I kid you not, this is not a complete phony baloney thing. When I saw these drawings first, which Adam had sent to me before he built the house, I thought that this must be nuts. But there's no way. That mountain's way too close. That really is realistic.
Well, the wildest thing is that, so many neighborhoods at the time advertised Mountain View. And I think yours might be the only neighborhood I've ever been to that still has that Mountain View they advertise somehow.
So that's that space today. So there she is. I got her gutted out, walls ripped out, things are happening, windows are going back in. He's in process. That's the great living room with that heat ceiling.
Lovely.
Of course, all the windows have been replaced, but they'll go back to the original ones. And you can see the bedroom wing has flat ceilings, the rest of it's all exposed. But this is the part that I've been working on. You can see here that closets are going in, the panels going up, all the drywall's going in, and this whole left-hand side of the plan is now done, other than carpet. So I have a little bit of some spaces to actually live. I'm no longer camping in my house after 8 months. This is the master. It's finished. Gosh, that purple lighting looks really intense on the screen here. I promise you the light's on. Draperies are not hung yet, but all the furniture is built in, so that's back. Paneling's on the wall, all the drywall. Had to mill the trim to match the original profile. So it's a serious, full-on, legitimate restoration. The
Streamlines.
it's ranch casing ripped down to inch and 4. Awesome. It's the same profile as his standard ranch casing. It's just much narrower. So I started with ranch and ripped it because I'm looking at it and I'm like, there's no way I'm going to pay to have these knives made to make this cheap little trim and patch. All the stuff. I mean, the doors, they're hand built, matched off of neighbors' doors and their closet configuration.
Paneling is that paneling?
In some places it was. So my language is that the paneling is all of the interior walls. The exterior walls are all chip, except for there's this big wall that runs through the center of the branch. That's the wall we're looking at behind the store here. That's actually a grass block.
The double loaded corridor.
There's my little study. So that's where I type up my little reports and my letters to all of you. That's where that happens. That's my study. Nailing in there. Philippine mahogany, so they call it. We all know it's just Luan. These great little screens and stuff like that. And I just finished the guest room. So all
Yeah,
those built in. The drywall. That was a new process, learning to drywall.
Yeah,
Is that the same philodendron that's in the other picture?
It's exactly the same. It's the same model, of course, you know.
So the roof outside the window there, that'll be going away.
Yeah, but 3 feet of it will still be there. You can actually see where this garbage is scattered onto the original rafter tails. So all of the openings are the house works really, really well. It doesn't get hot. It's well insulated, but the sun doesn't come through any of the glass because the depth of the overhang is high. But she's well on her way and she's coming back. And soon we'll do a little hard hat tour once I get more of the living spaces happening and hopefully the exterior of the house stripped off. So with that, Ms. Kimber.
I figured I would give you guys a tour where I've spent a lot of time in the last week. When Josh was like slides, I was like, oh, we can, and these photos are of course thanks to Adam. This is my and what's nice about this house is it is still quite original, which I appreciate. We have, newer pillow windows have gone in, but at least they're wood windows. They're not vinyl windows, so that's improvement. But this facade might look particularly familiar. This is not Croissant Park. This is a small subdivision called Cherry Creek Gardens. It is just adjacent. So we don't know who did this. We just know that they apparently also liked Eichlers and they also wanted to copy almost exactly the Croissant footprint, truthfully. They do. They don't pay the same price you do for Croissant, even though we're like 3 blocks away.
Well, the distinction is that it's a Croissant elevation, but the floor plan is a Linwood floor plan.
Yes.
They don't have this floor plan, so.
No, so that's what's interesting.
And that's what makes us think that it's probably a grass design.
What is this plate height for this beam? Like 6'8"?
Yeah.
Based on the size of the Vespa?
Yeah, I mean, it's not tall. You'll see, I have my.
Well, it's higher than 6'8".
It might be right.
Yes,
I didn't hit my head on.
And the
It's a little
doors
taller than-
slide underneath of it? Like a standard door?
Probably is like,
I bet it's 6'8".
probably 7.
I think it's probably actually 7, because I had to get on my ladder. To then be up on the beam, so I spent a lot of time, this is a friend of mine who's moving, but seeing that T111 siding, I just love this purple peel too, because you get that wonderful full floor to ceiling glass, but it's like just a peek into what this house looks like.
There's the unique detail because since they didn't do an exterior rafter, you have this beam that's just floating underneath the roof stand,
Which I think is
not like Croissant. They don't have that detail.
I think it's kind of a phenomenal little detail there. I love the detail too with where it almost gives you the illusion of the clear-story windows, the carport. I think that's a nice detail on this one, and I think that fence has probably been there for a long time because there's a shed behind it, but I like that they did that vertical fence on there to kind of mimic the siding.
And I noticed it's not behind the house that has that.
Yeah, people have it, so I think it was an original detail. And just a close-up on that beam as we're talking, and you can see where it's different construction. So the beam, instead of being up and the actual cross beams going into it, they're sitting on top of it, which is different from any of the Linwood or Croissant homes.
So the rafters themselves would be present parallel with this beam.
So you're, So here's the
I think
interior.
your deck is just cantilever on top of that
Yeah.
glass.
The deck is,
Yep.
Off the last rafter that's behind the glass.
she's like that here or something.
I bet you could go up on that roof and jump up and down real hard and bustle.
Probably wreck the whole front of the house.
Probably could, so 0 out of 10 would I rate?
Back of this. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not super.
Just,
And I don't think I threw in the fireplace does have kind of like a shadow block effect. I imagine maybe at some point there was a two-tone. But there's the ones that actually pop out just a little bit. And I imagine it was like a two-tone at some point, but no, it's just great. I don't think he painted it. He hasn't really done anything to change it because he enjoyed the house as it was. But true story, you can clean these ceilings by mopping them. I learned this from my cleaning people. So that was an enlightening moment.
you could already stand on the floor and like down with that. I'm sorry.
No, the ceiling wasn't that. She had to use a broom. She literally had to use a
It is a
ladder.
really low vault. It's not as quite.
It's not as low as you think.
Nicely.
I will encourage you to come to my open house
I
with
like
Adam
the
and I
brown.
on Saturday. Come see it.
Yeah.
How big this house. I just like, it's very much using the own expression. What I appreciate is that he has taken his parents' a bunch of Santa Fe art, and so it feels a little, Charles and Ray Eames lived in the house, and this is the true expression of living in the house with your own details. So there's some mid-century furniture, but then also you've got your very original old Navajo rug, which I think is lovely. And this is just kind of showing I like this floor plan, and it was funny because even my videographer made this comment that he likes this floor plan because he's like, it feels very square, it's very balanced. And that was his comment. He's like, it's very easy for me to come in and shoot. So of course, where the knickknacks are there underneath the clock, which I'll have a close-up of, was the original built-in barbecue, just like the ones in Linwood. So that's why we know, like, there's some sort of a tie.
It's interesting that they broke the grid of the structural grid keeps marching along, right?
But then you have this one little beam. I noticed it when I was cleaning.
This big fireplace now that
Yep. And I noticed it when I was doing that. Little details when you spend a lot of time in the house. But just nice, this I believe may have been a garage at some point. Because it's obviously the continual, you have the same ceiling, the same beam, and there's no.
You're talking about to the left?
Yeah, I think there might have been something there at some point, because it's right behind the carport. It's an
It's a
addition.
covered patio.
Could have been a covered patio, I'm not sure. It was something, it obviously is the same continuous materials of what was, I think, part of the house, whereas I've seen another one that had an addition in this same section, but there was a big, you could tell they attached.
So
the
it could have
beams.
been they extended the carport back to be a patio port and just had a screen dividing the two.
Yeah, so there was something, because this is much tighter than the other one I've seen with an addition in the neighborhood where you could very distinctly tell they added on to the room to try to match the ceiling, but there was that like reinforcement on the beams, whereas this looks like it could be the same continual beam.
What's on a gap? That's it.
We're
It's all
scared.
Those rooftop units. There's
That's it, swamp cooler, and it's forced air, it's underneath in a crawl space. And this is where you get just kind of that close up of where that indoor barbecue, which is very similar to Linwood.
Right, rotating.
Yeah, it's a crawl space.
So, how floors?
So there are original hardwood throughout, but there's also this parquet that runs just in like the kitchen and the living area. So I don't know if the kitchen had some sort of an asbestos flooring in it at some point, and then they threw the parquet on top. Or if when they did this addition, they decided the parquet, I don't know, the parquet's in good shape and it's a real hardwood parquet. So my guess is it's probably done in the 60s, maybe the 70s, but still in good shape. My favorite part of this house has to be the original porch cabinets, which we have one ad for this neighborhood, so we know those are the original ones. I gave them a good clean and polish, which he was shocked when he came back, and I was like, I've got this voodoo stuff.
The same kitchen.
I have this voodoo stuff that will clean this and will make them look new. And as you can see, thanks my furniture restoring friends for tips and tricks. Really, really, really lovely kitchen. As you can tell, it's got a cheap file. But I think everything in here is pretty much the original footprint. Love the cabinets, and I do, you know, we're putting in newer windows. I like that the color windows do actually match the cabinets well. And there's kind of, whoa.
I loaded that slide upside down.
Okay, well, we're imagining that we are looking, it's just giving you the idea that it's an open.
It's looking at the architecture from a different perspective. When you look at this room upside down, what do you see?
You see that you can mop the ceiling because it basically is a hardwood floor. The reason I put this one in though was mainly just so you can see that you can pretty much see all the front rooms from that circular, that fireplace is your anchor. And then this, similar to Persona and similar to Glenwood, you have your own private patio off of the primary bedroom, which is lovely. So you've got this great outdoor space. And we're basically having the standing right over to that. And so that's that private patio, that perfect little L alcove in there that just makes it look lovely. So that's where, who knows exactly what was there, because this is that addition room. But you have to almost know that this was intended. So to have it would have had that patio off. Because several of the models in there have that patio off the bedroom.
That guy.
We didn't even put the neat tiki part photo in there. There is an outdoor tiki bar, which I threw the photos on. Did it not get to you?
No.
Dave, you missed it. Well, here we can at least show the group. So just to get you best.
You shave in that picture.
I do. I need a new picture. Do. Where's you think?
Yeah, here's the. Guess you could put that's the tiki bar. That's right.
Wild.
Clear the daytime, but yeah, he has some oceanic arts tikis, so I do appreciate that. That's the tiki bar. Super neat.
So I only have like 5 photos to share, but I supplemented it with other stuff. So back in when I was in college, in the year 2000, I did an exchange in Germany. And while I was there, I did a lot of travel. And on one of the day trips that I took to go see the Fischer facilities in Basel, Switzerland, or just outside of Basel, if you ever find yourself in Basel or around Basel, make sure you visit Fischer because it's amazing. It's the only time I've seen a Zaha Hadid building up close. So they have the firehouse there. But on my way back, I had a long layover in Stuttgart waiting for a train. So I just decided to go walking around. And I actually stumbled upon a community that I had seen in my history textbooks in the moments that I wasn't sleeping in architectural history class in school. And when I saw some of the buildings, I was like, wait a second, this place, there's something about this place. And what I later realized, as I started walking around the neighborhood, and I regret that I didn't take many, many more photos, but believe it or not, in the year 2000, I still had a film camera like most people. It doesn't seem that long ago, but it was long enough. But I ran across this little wagon in the street that actually ended up being a vending machine where they sold these little guidebooks for where I was. And sure enough, I was in the Weissenhof estate, which is historically significant. And I actually like to refer to it as the 1927 Stuttgart parade of homes. These homes, this whole neighborhood was built as an exhibition by a group called the Deutsches Werkbund. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. What's that?
Werkbund.
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 There you go.
I lived
Which
in
is an
Stuttgart
organization
for
that
3
was founded
months.
Oh, go ahead. There's an organization founded in the early 1900s to try to join the arts and industry in Germany. And one of the things that they were tackling was the design of houses. And in 1927, well, 1926, but the event happened in 1927, Mies van der Rohe, somebody you might know, was tasked with putting together this exhibition of housing. And so this whole neighborhood was built with a variety of different kinds of houses, single family homes, multi-family homes, all designed by mainly German architects, but also several architects from outside of Germany. And many of them are now household names among us modernist fans. This first building here was designed by Le Corbusier, the French architect, in conjunction with, and I always forget his names. Out here. Right page. There we go. Le Corbusier and Pierre Généret. All right.
It's his cousin.
Isn't it his cousin?
Yeah.
And so
Corbusier's name was Jeanneret.
Jean-Marie. What I find most fascinating about this neighborhood is, growing up in the 1980s, up till today, modernism is always talked about as this new thing, this new movement. Someday this will be the future. And yet these buildings were built in 1927. We're coming up on almost 100 years ago. When these guys were working, even Alan was either not born yet or in diapers.
Oh, I wasn't born.
And that's how long the modern movement has been happening. And so this building here is actually, I know it looks like has several units, but it's actually just a duplex.
Oh.
And it has some of the it has some of Corbu's 5 points of a new architecture, which I should have memorized, and I don't. But at the very least, you can see that the building is up on pilotis. It has ribbon windows, which is cutting edge from the top.
Garden level. Top.
Yeah, and garden level on the roof. And I think what's interesting, and we'll get a better view in the next shot here, is actually these pilotis on the bottom create what is essentially a veranda that you enter the building on. Which is interesting because the veranda is an old idea, but this is a modern execution of it here. And it's also interesting, I took some of the floor plans and some of the photos from this folksy kit that looked. One of the things that a lot of these buildings have in common is a notion of having a free plan interior. So instead of having a building that's full of rooms with doors, they were really starting to explore the idea of having spaces that aren't so well defined, that can become whatever you need them to be as you live in them. Now, if you look at the unit on the right here, the smaller unit, they're actually getting a little far out. And actually, I think it's the same unit that you see photographed here, where they have beds in what most people would call their living room. But it was an example of showing the flexibility of space. Who says that this needs to be a bedroom or a living room or whatever? This is a very early example of an open plan. A very open plan, far more open than you find today.
So that's
No, they don't look numbers.
Would these been considered high-end or are these still be low?
I mean, this is an exhibition, but I think the idea was to demonstrate what a normal everyday person could be living in. This building, this larger building, was Mies van der Rohe's entry. And although this looks like the kind of buildings that, say, Kepler would design, which everybody's on a separate level or whatnot, what this actually is a set of row homes that look like, they have this one unified facade. So each unit goes all the way from the bottom to the top. And these windows that you see are actually staircases that are just in-unit staircases. And we can see that when we look at the floor plans. So you can see there's 4 units across the building.
Those are it.
Yeah.
4 bedroom.
Are there 2 bathrooms? When I did.
Oh, that's one.
Oh, because this is. So we're,
What's interesting is,
because this is, I'm assuming the bottom floor of each unit is far left and then they're going up, correct?
yeah, actually what,
No, the
Where am I?
Bottom.
with this?
bottom is first floor, mid, second floor.
actually, I may have misunderstood the plan here. Now I'm seeing there are different units each floor, but they all have this common stair. That's curious.
You're in.
I sort of.
I'm thinking that you. Yeah.
And what am I pointing? Oh, do you want to borrow?
Sure,
Oh, so
so
that bottom
you
is.
think there'd be a door here, upstairs, a unit here, left and right?
Yeah.
And the door here and the door here.
Yeah.
It doesn't really show any doors.
Right.
So you come into the
It
unit,
makes it confusing.
here's a kitchen. And there's dining and living. And then 2 bedrooms, okay, so 2 bedrooms. And then this is a 2-bedroom this way. And then here. Bathroom, 2 bedrooms. Bedroom can open up. The living space. Gentlemen, that's the issue.
Yeah.
The flexible
Yeah.
second bedroom and the third one on the parking lot.
These are configured for big families.
This is 1 bedroom.
The oral.
Yeah.
My brain was trying to process the.
And actually, it might be good for me to, I was gonna read these. I hadn't actually read this one yet. They have some courtesy English in the back, even though this is all in German. I just say, Mies van der Rohe here realized this idea of variable and flexible plans in multi-story and mass housing. The building is planned and executed as a steel frame structure with brickwork panels. To demonstrate that others beside himself were able to design interiors for flats of this nature, he commissioned altogether 29 architects and interior designers with the planning and furnishing. Mies himself planned 2 flats in 1927, and in another he demonstrated his flexible system of partitioning. During the exhibition period, he displayed his freely sprung MR chair, which has now become a classic of modern design. The present pink external coloring cannot be credited to Mies, which it was white when I saw it.
So I guess I see what it's doing. It's showing you how you can, like, even this bottom left.
So it
one,
was
you can
really
see the
very much an
partitions,
exhibition.
Versus you can see how open the one over here second from the right is. So you can kind of see where they moved all the walls.
So it makes it curious how they have it.
And then like this top floor, they're showing you that this one has 2 bathrooms. They all have 2 bathrooms. They moved the walls around to show the bathroom.
Flexibility of the plan.
The 3 plan.
The 3 plan. This next building, which I didn't get the best photo of, to really get a good sense of what you're looking at.
This one is on the ground house. Never seen more of this one.
You've seen it. What's interesting,
It's on the
so
lands way and queer way. Situation.
Be careful. Remember, it's,
Lane's way.
Yes.
like, remember, it's, it's a V, it's not a W.
Guess I didn't.
If you haven't watched, I think it's on Amazon Flash. I believe I'm like 90% sure.
Okay. This is by JJP Oud, who's from Rotterdam. And originally, these, even though this is what you're seeing here on the side that faces the street, Querbeck, or whatever it's called, this was actually intended to be the back entrance to the building. They had intended the actual entrance to the home to be actually on the other side, where I think there were like garden plots out there. But I think it's this quote says that today people actually use the street front as their front door. And here's a floor plan of a typical unit in this row home. What's interesting is that part on the front that has the clear story windows actually looks like it's a mezzanine.
So that street entry that goes onto a plaza, a court. Right.
Yeah,
So is this just a
and that's what my
really tiny
photograph
area?
didn't capture very well, is that there's like a little garden court there.
So is this upper right? Is that like the tiniest room? That like narrow mirror? Trying to figure out what
I
that's.
think that may very well be a narrow room.
That looks like it might be 6 feet wide. Like.
All you need is a bed, right?
Well, the
Twin.
last time,
Yeah,
Yeah.
those were movable walls though. This one doesn't. Like these two rooms look pretty standard sized.
It does look like that room is cornered of the balcony.
So that's trying to figure out.
I think that they sort of got programmable. Each one of them. And two bedrooms upstairs.
You have a real water closets. But I just love studying the floor plans of modern architects, because there's so much contained in these plans over what they were thinking. I don't think this one was originally purple, but this is another row home example. And I had gotten these two back to it. I figure out what people. Oh, this one's by Mark Stam. And I should be reading the descriptions of these two.
But what's funny about just really like stuff in the water like this is they never see anything. You know,
Yeah.
and you gotta think of things being arched, you know, on top of block and stuff. Boy, that must crack like great.
Stalin was motivated above all by social concern. He wanted to achieve a maximum economy through type standardization and through prefabrication of building parts to shorten the building process and thereby reduce costs. The prestigious single house was to be, let's see, I guess we did a house. Oh, I guess it's just describing to you. The prestigious single house was to be relegated in favor of a well-organized type design. A large bathroom with its extension to a gymnastics area was important enough for him to tolerate an internal room on the first floor. I'll go to the floor plan here.
They literally mean a gymnastics area?
And just to translate a bit, first floor in Germany, I believe, means one level above the street. Is it the one that's on the right hand side there that shows like the dashed line around it?
That looks like a bathroom, so like
Adjacent to the bathroom. I think that's the internal room. Or it's the one next to the stairs there. I guess they're really the one next to the stairs with the bed in it, maybe? That has no window.
Oh, yeah.
Right? In the living rooms of the house is also furnished by hand. He displayed 2 models of this cantilever tubular steel chair designed in 1926, the original of all freely sprung models. One house is furnished by Marcel Breuer. The blue color used on the houses corresponds approximately with that at the time of the exhibition. Originally, he intended having his houses painted white. But I think the reason I included the photos in this one is I thought it was interesting. They have this moving wall here on the main level, which again, that's something you think, well, 1950s invention or whatever. Now Germans were doing it in the 1920s. Now you can see on the plan the dashed line indicates where it kind of folds out. And then this one's interesting too because it actually is kind of I don't know if it's a full basement or just halfway underground, but there's actually kind of a basement level. And then this is one of the single family homes, which I found to be really interesting because this is not what you think of when you think of international style, which is much of what these buildings represent. Most of these single family homes that were built in the exhibition have been lost due to either neglect or through the effects of World War II. This is one of those that remains, however. And this one is by Hans Scharaun. And I have some of the floor plans of this one as well. This nice interior shot really shows you how cutting edge this open plan interior is.
Look at that lighting.
Yeah.
Lighting.
Is it a built-in couch there? Or is it an interior?
Yeah, it is a built-in couch. You can see it on the plan there, the top plan on the lower left-hand side.
Oh,
Oh, the window. I think that's
So
a
the
giant sliding glass
staircase
door.
Yeah, and so the staircase is along the curves too.
Yeah. Really fascinating to see this. Nice.
Also for me, I'm realizing that there must be some sort of wording. Does not have to see the floor plan up there. Does not make as much sense. So I can like physically put it here.
Looks like maybe concrete floors.
Yeah, I need it like my brain needs it. My brain needs the plan flat and the photo upright because then my brain knows how to product like trim.
So this one has a relatively short description. This is on a relatively small site and in a small house. Scharaun successfully achieved a separation of the various living functions. The unusual external form of the house reflects the internal conception. Garden and interior stand in well-planned relationship to each other. So indoor-outdoor connection. 1927.
I mean, that's the cool place.
So yeah, these are my photos and my insights from the 1927 Stuttgart Parade of Homes. I looked it up on this is actually one of my textbooks from my architectural history class, which is chock full. You see how little this text is here. Chock full of information if you ever really want to dig deep into modernity. But I thought this line was interesting because it kind of reminds me of today in a spooky way. It says the extreme right in Germany was quick to denounce the whole thing, talking about Weissenhof, as further evidence of an international communist plot. And there were even caricatures of the Weissenhof in which camels and Arabs were shown wandering around a supposed degenerate kibosh. And the extreme left rejected the exhibition as an irrelevant display of formalism, being particularly harsh about Mies van der Rohe's somewhat geological sculptural massing of the overall layout. And I neglected to mention that Mies had planned the entire layout of the neighborhood. So yeah, the conflict between the left and right just continues to work as well.
Yeah, what's incredible about this So the first building, the two-family house, fancy enough. I used to teach an intro.
If anybody wants to flip to this book.
Introduction to modern architecture. And we would get up through
Did you see
19,
interior
really old stuff, Franklin grades.
kind of neat?
And then I'd start that class by showing a picture. It was that house, but there was this great picture of the girl in front of it and this 20s roadster, you know, and I'll show the picture of the house in color and then show the next slide. And that's
Yep.
blows the students' minds.
Like this is
How
what
could
cars
we get
look
that-
like.
that old?
Yep. That's how long people have had a chance. Oh yeah, this is actually a good photo of what the neighborhood looked like
I
at
know.
the time. In addition to being a sort of parade of homes demonstration, they also had like a home show next to it where they were demonstrating new methods of building and building materials. And I think in this photo, it shows, I think maybe this area may have been a demonstration area as part of the project. That was, I was not looking for it, but I figured if I walked around Stuttgart long enough, I'd stumble across something interesting, but I felt really fortunate to have stumbled across that. That was something I always wanted to see.
I mean,
And I didn't have Google Maps for smartphones didn't exist back then, way back in the 2000, year 2000.
This is obviously much more significant, but that was like me going and they're like, we just took a trolley to somewhere to find a restaurant in Miami, and then I was like, what is this?
Right?
What is this? And they were all wandering off, and I'm over here taking photos of the pedestrian while doing my thing. They're like, I'm just doing our building thing, it's fine.
I was tempted to include some of the photos of Stuttgart's crazy postmodern art museum. That if I showed you photos of it, you'd know it.
Well, this was fun, wasn't it?
Okay.
I want that one slide that said the low slung I'm gonna steal that copy for my listing. It was the futuristic something.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have on yours.
The low slung
Futuristic low
line.
sweeping, it was something.
Streamlined, futuristic, streamlined, low slung.
Yeah, that doesn't say 55. Okay.
I think it was low sweeping.
Low
Low,
sweeping.
it is low.
Was it futuristic, streamlined, low sweeping design? Because I feel like that works for this house, as you kept commenting. So, was too low.
No, I love that. And there's actually those houses east of Apple Blossom, that road, those two streets, those houses, I stopped by there and walked back. And the outside plate of those and the underside of that central beam, which is also underneath the rafters, is at 6'8", because the standard doors plug in underneath of it. So the ceiling height would work for an 8-foot sheet of plywood. Take one up, slide there. 6'8". So all that math with those really low ceilings is based on comfortable. Beautiful. I bet you those are also, there's probably some magic math in that. It's probably different.
I would say right at the bottom of the clear story is probably 6'8".
Not really.
Yeah, that would make sense.
So, last minute reminders. We'll be sending all these things out via email too, but August 20th NCAR, August 27th NCAR. Next week, or sorry, next month will be our banquet, tiki thing, which will be a ton of fun. And also the Heartling and his churches, the Wild and the Mild, July 23rd. So I'll send, if I haven't already sent that out, I'll send out the new itinerary. 10 a.m., 9:15 East Avenue, Denver. So with that, I hear a motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor, say aye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
Good night, Alan.
19 in the books.
19. And 20 is our banquet. How great is that?
This one was a long one. We're gonna have to limit the slideshows.
Well, I figured that 12 was appropriate. I didn't know how much of this picture. Yeah.